Welcome to this week's episode of Drawn to the Word Artist Sketchbook. And we are looking at a story that we hear on a day in the church year that is called Maundy Thursday. And that word Maundy means commandment. So you can think of that word as Commandment Thursday. So it's the night before Jesus dies. He calls his disciples to go and find a certain man out in the city who will allow them to use this space in his home. And they gather there for what has become known as the Last Supper. And Jesus has this meal with his disciples. And during this meal, it is revealed as to which one of the 12 disciples will betray Jesus, will turn against him. And that will be Judas. And Judas will leave to go and do his thing. He will take off out into the night to do what ultimately becomes a part of God's plan. So as they were gathered there, there's something else that took place. And here is a sketch that I have been working on. And can you tell what is happening here? We have Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. Now this was an act that was only done by slaves. Somebody as prominent as Jesus, who is a rabbi, a teacher, a Jewish teacher of the law, would not do this for his students. Maybe the students would do it to the teacher, but probably a slave for someone of higher position in society. But here Jesus stoops down and is willing to shame himself in order to show what it means to love one another. And this is where that word commandment, or Maundy Thursday, Commandment Thursday comes from, where Jesus gives a new commandment on this night, saying, just as I have loved you, now you go and love one another. It's a self-sacrificing love. Jesus pours out his entire life for his disciples and for all people, and ultimately dies for them. And he calls us to do that, to give our lives away, to serve others in love and in care. I've taken this sketch and I've turned it into a watercolor painting and have played around with it a bit. I have a building back here, but I redid my sketch and included a shepherd carrying a sheep out of the dark shadows, and an image of the cross as foretelling what's to come after this Thursday night supper that they would share together. So they gather, and while they are eating, Jesus takes bread and he blesses it, and he breaks this bread and he gives it to his disciples, and he tells them to take this and eat it, saying that this is his body. And then he takes a cup and he gives thanks, and he gives it to all of them to drink, saying, this is the blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. And he calls them to do this in remembrance of him. And he also says at this time, and I don't think the disciples understood this, I know I would not have at that time for sure, he says, I tell you, I will never drink again of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And so then in the Gospel of Matthew it says they sung a hymn together, and they went out to the Mount of Olives. Maundy Thursday, the commandment. Just as I have loved you, love one another. And this is a love that Jesus poured out for you, specifically for you.